So before we start retouching at all, I'm going to show you how I set up my workspace. Everyone that I know does this differently. Every retoucher I know has their own style of setting up their workspace. Some use a second monitor. I just use this single monitor. This is actually how I do work on a single monitor. For the purpose of our tutorial, I'd like you to set up your workspace exactly like mine. It's just going to make it a lot easier for you to follow along and access things the same way that I do. And then as you continue to work, you can make modifications to that fit your style. You might not like how I do it, and that's okay. But for now, I'll show you exactly how I set up my workspace every day. Okay, so when I first opened Photoshop, this is like fresh out of the box. Photoshop, everything is in its default state. So I'm going to show you what I do every time I open Photoshop on a new computer. I need to make it my own. So I'm going to go first into Preferences. So starting at the top, I'm just going to go through this quickly and just show you how I set up my workspace. This is not a tutorial for setting up preferences in general. I'm not going to show you all of the options in here and what they all do. There's a great tutorial for that. Photoshop 101 on RGG EDU. This is just showing you how I set my stuff up so that you can just really quickly go through. I'm going to move fast, but you will be able to set your workspace up exactly like mine. So in the general section, turn off show start workspace. Interface looks good. I don't really change anything there. In workspace though, turn off the tabs and floating document docking. I don't like those. Tools. I'm going to turn off flick panning and I'm going to turn off snap vector tools. History log is a really great thing if you have to take if you have to do timesheets at your work. This will create a log of every image you open and close and how long you had it open. I found it really, really useful for retouchers who need to keep track of what they're working on. You can turn this on and save it as a text file to your desktop. Not a lot of people know about this or the best way to use it, but it's basically just for tracking your time. If you need to do that, turn this on. That's kind of a sidebar. I'm not going to do that today. File handling. Save recovery information every 5 minutes. Now with big files, you might see a little bit of a performance decrease with this when Photoshop is saving in the background, but this has saved my ass so many times when I've had a Photoshop crash and I've gotten my file recovered in 5-minute intervals. I've saved so much work having to go back. It's really good at doing its job of auto saving and recovering, so turn that to 5 minutes. It's worth it. I'm going to turn off layer TIFF files notification, and I'm going to turn always on compatibility. Export's fine. Performance, I usually keep this in the range that Photoshop recommends, but I'll turn my history states up to something like 100. I love having a lot of history states. Cursors, I'm going to change other cursors to precise because I like the crosshair. And moving through the rest of these, I don't change anything else in these settings. So that's good for preferences. You can just set yours the same way, and maybe later if you want to turn back on flick panning or something like that, do that to your own taste. So let's deal with the actual palette setup. We need to bring up a new file because Photoshop by default brings us into this start workspace, which I don't really like. I don't really need. So I'm just going to open up a new document. It doesn't matter what it is, but this will allow me to access my actual Photoshop workspace. Now this is the Essentials workspace. It looks like this. A lot of this stuff I don't use, and I need to add stuff that is not here. So I'm going to take you through exactly how I do it. It's a little bit tedious, but it's basically you're just pulling apart all these palettes and turning them on or off. So you're watching me move through this really, really fast, and that's because I'm really, really familiar with my workspace and how I like to have it set up. The basic rule of thumb here is that if I'm accessing certain panels a whole lot, then I want them right up here where I can access them immediately just by moving my mouse over. If it's something that I don't access a lot, it's fine to keep it up here hidden and access through the window drop down. I'll continue setting this up. There are just a couple more things. I think I'm pretty close to done here, but I'll also provide you this workspace so you can just easily turn it on. But it's also important to see how I set this stuff up, because pulling apart and deleting palettes from here is a little bit clunky. It takes knowing how to do it. So just watching me move through it fast shows you how I go through and just clean that up every time I have a new install of Photoshop. So don't worry, I'm going to provide you this workspace as a preset that you can load, and when you click on that, it's just going to load your workspace exactly like mine. So last thing I'm going to do is pull the tools palette over here, because I like to have everything in one place on the right side of my screen so I'm not moving back and forth between both sides of the screen. Now I'll take you through real quickly what I did. I like having all of these tools right here: layer comps, clone source, brush, my actions, and history. The tool palette directly next to that, navigator up here, layers, channels, and paths together in one panel so I can switch between them as tabs, and then properties and info on the bottom so I can see my curves when I bring up a curve or any other adjustment layer down here, and I can read my info directly next to it. This is my essential workspace, and once you get comfortable working in Photoshop, you can change things, add things, remove things to fit your own working style.